Hello, everyone. I'm Samuel Medina, Executive Editor of the Architects newspaper. I'd like to welcome you all to today's live webinar entitled Revit Project Setup, Simple Steps for Using Ideate Software Solutions to Save You Effort Over the Life of Your Revit Project. This live webinar is part of the CE Strong webinar series powered by the Architects newspaper. The webinar is also sponsored by Ideate Software. This program is registered with the AIA CES for continuing professional education. Questions related to specific materials, methods, and services will be addressed at the conclusion of this presentation. This webinar is being recorded and can easily be replayed using the same registration link that brought you here today. Please allow 2 to 3 business days to process certificate of participation and AIA credit reporting. On the screen, I'm going to go over today's learning objectives for the presentation before handing it off to today's speakers. So first, you'll be creating a new project levels with the assistance of Ideate Bim Link. You'll see how to easily create unplaced rooms using programming assignments from client requirements contained within Excel. You'll learn about Revit sheet creation process by using existing information from an Excel list of required sheets. You'll see the creation of necessary project views with their correct view properties using Ideate View Creator. You'll also learn about the creation of a cartoon sheet set using Ideate Sheet Manager. You'll review the composition, alignment, and properties of required views using the view tools contained within Ideate apps. And lastly, you'll see a demonstration of how Ideate software solutions can reduce project setup tasks, yet increase overall efficiency of your Revit project. And with that, I would like to present you to today's co-presenters, Sash Kazamenejad, AIA, Lead AP, and Richard W. Taylor, Associate AIA. Sash earned his Master's of Architecture from Montana State University and is a California registered architect and an LEED lead accredited professional. He has extensive experience in project management, BIM management, design for architectural firms in California, Montana, and Oregon, and leading classroom and online BIM training. He provides consulting, sales, support, and training solutions to AECO customers around the globe. Richard has more than 30 years of experience working for companies that develop architectural and engineering software solutions, such as Intergraph, Bentley, and Autodesk. He has over 20 years of Revit experience, and he was part of the original development of Revit while at Revit Technology Corporation. He worked for 12 years at Autodesk, where he presented, talked, and worked to improve features in Revit. Richard holds both the Bachelor's of Science in Architectural Studies and a Master's of Architecture from the University of Nebraska-Lincoln. As technical evangelist, Richard works with AECO clients worldwide, developing and consulting on BIM solutions. With that, I'm gonna pass the screen over to Sash, who will kick off the presentation, and then Richard will pick up afterwards.
All right. Thanks, Samuel. Appreciate the introduction. And let's just go ahead and get the screen going. All right, you guys can see my screen, I take it, correct?
Yes.
All right, awesome. Well, thank you everybody for joining us today. Really appreciate everybody taking time out of their day to join both Richard and myself to kind of review some Revit project setup with some of our Ideate software solutions. And, you know, part of the reason why we're here today and, you know, why we're out kind of on this mission to talk about Ideate software is we really want to help everybody simplify their Revit data challenges. You know, part of the reason why we're here today is because we all probably have some challenges or pain points, you know, issues that we're dealing with, you know, on a day-to-day basis with Revit. And really for us, our bread and butter in terms of the software development that we do really focuses on the the Revit model data. I think it's fair to say in today's environment, access to data, being able to manage data, edit data, review it, get information about model health and so forth is really of huge importance. And so, at the bottom of our screen, you can kind of see our 5 software applications. We're not going to review all the applications today. We're going to focus on a couple of them, but again, all 5 of our applications, plus a couple other ones, really do focus on Revit model data. I do want to just point out a couple of other bits of information before we get into the demonstration. We have a lot of great information on our website at ideatesoftware.com. So if you want some educational videos, some of the live classes that we host kind of internally, a lot of great info there. If you just want to even learn about our products, definitely a great spot to go to. We have a full-on support team as well. Both Richard and myself and a couple other folks handle support. So if anything comes up or you have some really detailed questions, feel free to reach out to us at ideatesoftware.com. We want to make sure people have all the information they need to get started. So we have, getting started guides in all of our products. And the great thing is we do follow the Autodesk development cycle when it comes to, adding any additional features to the current build of Revit, plus the 3 prior builds as well. So, Revit 2022 just came out, and so our software handles 2022 all the way back through 2019. However, if you do have older versions of Revit, no problem, we have you covered there as well. And we do a lot of QA/QC testing, so we don't like to push our software out the door until all of our testing protocols are taken care of. So that way, when you do receive our software, you can rest assured that it is as designed and functioning as it should be. And a couple other things I want to point out that we're really excited to talk about before we get into the demo is, for those of you that may be using Revit in other languages, such as, French, German, Japanese, Spanish, Chinese, the great news is we have now also done a translation of our software. And this is actually professionally translated. So rather than running it through, let's say, a Google Translate or some other online translation program that gives you maybe some of the words that you're looking for, but doesn't really meet your language needs, we didn't do that. We actually professionally translated our products. And so if you are using any of these versions of Revit, our software will automatically translate over into your language. So just something to kind of keep in mind there in case you are using Revit in other languages. And of course, we have our cloud network licensing. So if you are an existing customer, it now does support VDI environment. And then also for Revit 2022 and the Autodesk Cloud Construction, our products such as Ideate Sticky and Bimlink do support those versions as well. And so nice improvements. We have a lot of other general improvements to our products, and you can visit our website for more information on that. Okay, so for the part that I'm going to be focusing on today, which is going to be Ideate Bimlink. And real quickly, before I give you the demo here, just talk about Bimlink for a moment. So the beautiful thing about Ideate Bimlink is we are getting you access to a large amount, and I mean a large amount, of your Revit model data. So the interface within Bimlink can give you access to that data, and then you can take that information out of the Revit model to Microsoft Excel. And one of the things I like to talk about is, I think a lot of people associate Bimlink with take it out to Excel, edit it in Excel, pull it back in, and you're done. But Bimlink's a great product to push the data out to Excel so you can use that Excel information to review your model or review the data within your model. So I always like to tell people, think beyond just data editing. How can I get access to this data, review it kind of outside for QA/QC purposes or model health check or so forth? How can I maybe get access to this information and maybe use Power BI to pull some of that information into some dashboards? Really be thinking of it from that standpoint. Now, for today's demonstration, I'm going to be showing you how to use Excel and pull some of the information in to create some new elements within the model as part of the Revit project setup. And again, feel free, during this webinar, type some questions and answers in the questions panel related to, Bimlink or any other products, and we're going to help you out with that. So I'm just going to get right into kind of the first portion of the demonstration. Then Richard's going to take over after this and show you some really cool things with Ideate apps. All right, so what I'm going to do here is switch over to a Revit model. And one thing I do want to mention to you, no matter what discipline you are, whether you're an architect, interiors, on the MEP structural side of things, the workflows that we're going to be demonstrating today cover all industries. Okay. It's easy for us. We have, some architectural models here that have a lot of information. And so I tend to use these ones, but whether you're mechanical or so forth, these workflows are exactly the same. So all of our products, of course, can be found under the Ideate Software tab. And again, I'm going to be focusing on the Bimlink platform. And as I mentioned before, Bimlink gives you access to a large amount of your Revit model data, so you can push it out to Excel. Now, normally when you bring up some links or create some customized links, and I like to kind of say links are like schedules of parameter information, that information ends up showing up over here. And you can see I have a few of them already ready to go, but I'll just quickly give you a tour of the interface here, just so that you're kind of familiar with how it works. Bimlink does ship with a huge amount of content, over 300 samples related to all industries. And I always like to tell people, just start here at the samples level, click include files and subfolders, and you can see all of the links that are ready to go. These include, discipline specific links, health check links, project standards, revision management, even things beyond schedules like managing, field region information, lines, and so forth. So if you want to get an idea of what this product is capable of doing, I definitely encourage you to take a look over here. But as part of some of the project standard stuff or project setup stuff that I want to talk about today, I do want to point you to the Create Elements folder. And this is kind of where I'm going to focus to start with. And so you can see some of the information here, like creating new levels, creating some new plans if you wanted to use Bimlink for this, areas for those of you who want to do that. Or, if you're on the mechanical side of things and you want to take a architect's model and link it into your project, grab all their room information and copy that and create spaces. We have a workflow for that as well. So it's a very powerful product. Really, it's the world is your oyster. How you want to use Bimlink to access the data and modify it. It's really up to you. All right. But I do want to focus on this levels create new. And you'll notice over here that I get kind of a warning triangle. It says the link name already exists, and that's because I already have it loaded up over here. And so this one here is basically an instance-based link. And so what that really means is I'll be either creating instances of levels and or modifying level instances as well. One of the things that we do with Bimlink is we don't allow the editing, shall we say, of type and instance parameters in kind of one worksheet or one tab within an Excel file. And that's because people can end up going in circles or they can make a mistake and not realize they're editing one type of parameter when they're actually editing another one. But the cool thing about Bimlink is we allow you to do both an instance of type and even multiple categories of information to one Excel file if you wanted to. So some of our health check related information, we a lot of times will push this data out to one Excel file as multiple worksheet tabs. So it's an incredibly powerful product that's very well aware of what it's doing. So I'm going to hit cancel here. And I'm going to just take you directly to the link that I pulled up. And this is the out of the box setup over here. And, one of the things I want to point out to you here is, we just have a real simple example here, levels 1 through 9, and here's some elevations. And again, if you're on the metric system, no problem. We would display the units based on how your units are set up in your project. But what's also great about this is, we give you access to all sorts of other data, including interesting things like, are they pinned? And what's really cool about this is you could technically use this link and pin your grids, or I'm sorry, your levels in this case, if you wanted to. And everything in white is fair game or editable, and everything in gray is read-only or not allowed to be edited. It just depends on the type of link that you're doing or whether Revit allows you to modify that information or not. And if you have any customized parameters, all that information will show up in here. You can also filter information, say, hey, I just want to look at, system-based parameters, or I want to look at, project-based parameters like Kobe information or this custom one that I have over here. We give you a lot of flexibility. Now, what I'm going to do here, I'm just going to go ahead and remove this because this to me is irrelevant. What I'm going to do here is I'm going to take this data, I'm going to push it out to an existing Excel file. Okay, and the goal here is to basically take this information and pull it into another project to create some levels, because that's the goal here, is to do some basic project setup. So I'm going to hit OK. And what I'm going to do for this example is I'm going to actually rename this. OK. And I'm just going to call this like a levels export. And you'll see why I'm doing this in a moment. Okay, so there's my levels export. All right. And then there it is. You'll see it right there. And then what I'm going to do is export it out. And I'm just going to go ahead and just save it right in here. Okay. And then what I'm going to do is I'm going to hit done. I'm not going to open the file yet. Okay. And I'll show you why in a moment. Okay, so now what I'm going to do is I'm going to switch over to another project, and this project here has, some levels that are ready to go. And this is actually the out-of-the-box Revit template for, I believe, the construction template. And all I added here was a scope box, with a scope box name. And I went ahead and I just assigned all the levels or associated them with this particular scope box that they're tied to it. But the goal is to get that level information into this project, and maybe also rename some of these levels or fix the fact that they're not they're sentence case instead of all uppercase. And I'm going to just do all this using Excel. So what I'm going to do here is I'm going to go to Ideate Software. I'm going to go to Bimlink. And then this time what I'm going to do here is I'm going to bring up that same link, that levels that's out of the box. So I'll come over to Create Elements. I'm going to go to Levels, Create New. And the only thing I'm going to add this time is that scope box. Okay, because this time I may want to actually assign a scope box here. So I'll just go ahead and add that to the end of the elevation over here, and you'll see that it's in white. Okay, and that means, again, it's editable. And if I come over to link, what's kind of neat about this is I can export with drop-down values, and certain parameters that have drop-down values or something that allows you to switch something out, like a scope box, will export a list of scope boxes that are associated with this project. So if I had 10 scope boxes, I would get a list of the 10 scope boxes plus the none as well. And you'll see this in a moment, how this is going to work. So I'm going to hit done. And then this time what I'm going to do is I'm going to export it. And instead of exporting it as a separate Excel file, I'm actually going to click on this one over here. And you're probably thinking, well, wait a minute, you're just going to overwrite that Excel file with this one right over here. And the answer is no, actually I'm not. Take a look at this. When I hit save, it says the spreadsheet file levels export already contains a worksheet. What do you want to do? I'm going to stick another worksheet inside of that file. And when I do that, look what happens when I open it. Now, when I open this file, you're going to see here that the levels export from the other file is right here. And then here is the level information from the current Revit file, including the drop-down list. So again, I don't have any scope boxes with the exception of overall building and none. But what this kind of does over here is it creates a drop-down list under the raw data that got exported out from the model. Okay, that's kind of cool. So what's my goal here? Well, my goal here is to fix this kind of information here and add some additional levels. So what I'm going to do is I'll just come over to levels export. And again, this is a really simple exercise here, but I'm going to copy this info right here. And then I'm going to come over here, and in level 1, you'll notice that it's also, sentence case as well. I want it to be uppercase. So what's great about this is I can just come over here and paste this information here. And it also changes the elevations over here. Okay. And then I add 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, and 9. And then what I'll go ahead and do here is say, you know what, let's assign these levels while we're at it to the overall building. Okay. And then what I'm also going to do here is say, okay, Bimlink, upon import, I want you to create some new levels. And so I can fill that down and instruct Bimlink to create some new levels. Now, if it's bothering you, this is gray, because I've told you before that gray is not editable. Don't worry about it. The reason why is this is just an Excel fill. It's just pulling the previous properties. If it really bothers you, sometimes it bothers me, I can just make it, a white background. It's totally irrelevant, has nothing to do with, the import. Now, as I mentioned before, I want these to be uppercase, right? Because I want to take the existing levels and make them uppercase. So beyond the data that got exported from this Revit model, this area over here is really your space to play around. You can do whatever you want over here. Bimlink is only really going to read the information from here and import it back in. It doesn't care about the drop-down list it made or anything you do out here. So what I'm going to do is in column G, I'm going to use a simple formula that says equals the uppercase of that. All right. And when I do that, you can see that it's uppercase. I'll just go ahead and fill it down a few times. okay? And you can see it right there. I'll copy this information to the clipboard, and then in column B, I'm going to paste the resulting values. Okay, so that's basically what it looks like. So I'm editing this and making it uppercase. I'm changing these to uppercase. I'm changing the elevation values, and I'm adding some more levels. And I'm assigning these existing or these new levels to the overall building. All right, let's take a look at that. I'm going to hit save. I'm going to close this down, and you technically don't have to close it, but I prefer. All right, and then let's just take a look. I like to zoom out just so we can kind of see the magic. I'll come back to Bimlink over here. And now what I want to do is I want to come back over here and go to import, and I'm going to bring this levels export. And I could have just called this Excel file levels. That's probably may have been more appropriate, but that's okay. I'm going to hit open. And good news, no errors and warnings, which means I've practiced this a couple of times, right? But you can see here, we're giving you a nice feedback loop, right? A lot of software doesn't give you that kind of information. We're telling you exactly what's about to change when you commit to the import. And if you want to get a cell-by-cell look or a play, you can certainly take a look at each cell and what's about to change. All right, take a look over here when I hit import. And just like that, you can now see that I've created those levels. They're assigned, to the correct scope box. Actually, I'll click on this one over here. You can see over here, they have the correct elevation. And in addition to that, those are no longer sentence case. So nice example there. If you wanted to use, Bimlink to create levels across multiple models, maybe in a situation where you're not going to be linking an existing file into a project and then using copy monitor and then removing the monitor, this is a nice way to just populate a model or multiple projects real quickly with levels at a certain elevation, assign the scope boxes, and move on from that. All right, so that's the first kind of simple example over here. Now what I want to do is I want to come back to this file over here, and I want to talk about rooms, okay? And I want to just take this maybe from a perspective of maybe doing some room programming. So here's an example of a customized room schedule that I made that has some basic info like the room name and number, what department it belongs to, its actual area, and then maybe what the target square footage is. So if you're working with a client and they say, hey, look, we're working on schools, classrooms have to be a certain size or within a certain amount of square footage or square meters, whatever it may be. This is a nice way of doing that. There's some calculated values in here that can report some of the differences. So for example, if you're, I don't know, let's just say this office is supposed to be 150 square feet. When I hit enter, it says there's a 19% difference between the target and the actual, right? And the same thing over here. As I do this, it kind of reports. And if we're not within a certain margin, a plus or minus a certain percentage, it will report this, and I can go back and adjust my model as necessary. This is all done through Revit, by the way. There's nothing fancy that I did over here. But the reality is I only see rooms really on level 1 and 2, but I want to add some for room 3. Well, how can I do that? Well, I can use Bimlink to assist me with this. So I'm going to come over to Bimlink, and when I come over to Bimlink, you can see I already have a programming room schedule. And the reality is, if I just go to new, and I'm not going to recreate this, I can actually create a new schedule by using an existing, a new link in Bimlink using an existing schedule, okay? Again, you could see here I have a warning triangle. So that's basically what I did here. And of course, I would go through all the steps normally on how this is done, but in the interest of time, I already have it all set up. Okay, so I can start here, say I want to edit instance parameters. Why is type link grayed out? Because rooms don't have type parameters. So we gray that out so you don't accidentally make a mistake or get confused by it. So let me just take a look at this programming room schedule. And basically the parameter information that I have listed out here basically matches, the information you see here, okay? And so this is kind of what you're looking at. And again, the area is gray because you're not allowed to modify the area through like Excel or anything like that. You have to actually move walls if it's a room, or area boundary lines if it's an area, in order to actually change that information, right? Otherwise, Revit's not going to know which direction to push a wall or a boundary line. So for this example here, I'm just going to take this and move it down. But again, we give you access to all sorts of other data, coordinate information, level information. If these belong to model groups, you can get model group information, and you can add all this to your export, whether you just want to change some of the data or review some of the data. It's incredibly powerful. All right, but I'm going to take this existing information. I don't have any filters that are filtering out, but if I wanted to filter it by phase, and look at this, you can show all phases, existing phase rooms, phase 1 or phase 2 rooms. It's totally up to you. All right, we have a lot of power in order to filter this data out. So what I'm going to do here, like I did before, is I'm going to export this into an existing document over here because I have some room information for floor 3. So I'm going to go ahead and hit save. And like before, I'm going to insert this data basically, or what you saw from Bimlink, into this Excel file as a new worksheet. And let's take a look at the magic here. I'm going to go ahead and hit open file. And so now you can see kind of a real simple, document for a hospital here. But what I want to show you here is I just want to show you the programming room schedule. Okay. And you can see it over here, right? Okay. So now in this case over here, what I want to do is I have all of this over here. You can see some of the information, with the info that I added over here earlier. Remember, I typed that in manually in the schedule. It's now showing up over here. But what I want to do is I want to add the third floor information. So I have the number, the name, department, and square footage. And so I'll just go ahead and fill this information down, not fill it down, but select it. I'm going to copy it to the clipboard. And then over here in the programming schedule, I'm just going to basically scroll down to the end of the list over here. And basically where the room number is, I'm going to paste the data. And it's important, obviously, that you get this information in the same exact order. Okay, if it's not, you may have to, move the data around. What you don't want to do with Bimlink is move columns of data around. If you do that, you have to go back to the link and move those columns first before you can import the data in, because we're relying on the order of the columns. Just something to kind of keep in mind. Okay, I don't need to assign it a level because as I place rooms, they'll get a level. But what I want to do, like I did before, is create new. So I'll fill this information down. As I explained before, there's no need to change it to, a white fill. It has nothing to do with it in this example. But you can see here, I'm not allowed to edit what level a room is on because Revit won't let me do that without actually cutting a room and pasting it into a new location. Okay, let's just take a look at this. I'm going to hit save. I'm going to hit, close this out. I'm going to come to import, and there it is. And take a look at this. No errors, no warnings. All of these rooms are going to be created as unplaced rooms. And notice how nice it is. It puts it in the right order. It's pretty cool here. All right, I'm going to hit import. And now you can see over here, we have the unplaced rooms. And notice over here, I'm not seeing any percentage difference because this room hasn't been placed yet. So now what I'm going to do here, let's just try this. I'm going to didn't want to do that. I want to do a window. Come on, Revit. Let's try this. Let's see if I can do a WT. That's what I was trying to do here. All right, so now what I'm going to do here is I'm going to go to the third floor. So I'll just do this here real quickly. And there it is. And now what I want to do is I want to place some of these rooms. So let me just make this a little bigger so you can kind of see some more real estate. But basically now, as I scroll down kind of to the bottom of the list here, you'll see them show up here in a moment. I'm going to come over to the architecture tab. And then I'm going to come over to room. And then normally we don't ever pay attention to what we're doing. We just start dropping rooms in here. But if I click in the room, you can see all the unplaced rooms. So as I click and place these rooms, you can see what's going on over here. So now I can come over here and I can do, 301. And then I can come over here, do the restroom for it. And you can see here, we'll just do a couple of more. But now I could just come in here and place each one of these rooms. And when I'm done with that, you could see here that it all shows up in the schedule because now they've been placed, right? So the actual versus the target square footage, a 9% difference. And again, because I did all this ahead of time, I could actually edit all this information and pull them in and create these rooms. So it's pretty brilliant in terms of how this whole workflow works. So again, using Bimlink to actually take a owner's programming requirements and pull this information in as unplaced rooms, and I can just start placing them. And again, as I come in here and I start pulling from this list, when this list gets down to only new, I've satisfied the programming requirements by placing all the rooms. All right, and then I have one last example here before we pass it on to Richard. It's a pretty simple one here. Sheets. That's another one that is always an issue. How do I just bulk create a whole bunch of sheets with the sheet name, sheet numbers, drawn by, and so forth? Well, you can guess here that it's probably about the same as all the other methods that I just showed you here. So we actually have a link called Sheets Create New. And you can see it right here. And if I look at the properties real quickly, we could see here that we have what title block there is, sheet number, sheet name appears in sheet list, and so forth. And just for the heck of it, let's just go ahead and add like drawn by. All right, so let's just add drawn by over here. So I'm just going to go ahead and put it over here. And you'll notice that there's nothing showing up, even though I see existing sheets here. That's because by default, we've filtered out where a sheet number doesn't have a value set. So if a sheet number actually exists, which these do over here, we're going to filter it out. But for this example here, I'm just going to show you all the existing sheets, and because maybe I want to change some of the sheet names. So let's take a look at that. I'm going to take this info out. I'm going to export it. And I already have a sheet creation Excel file. Just again, in the interest of time, I just wanted to have something with a few sheets. So I'm going to go ahead and hit save. And like before, I'm going to insert a new worksheet inside that existing Excel file, and then I'm going to open the file here. All right, so here's my sheet list. It's not big, okay, again, interest of time. But if I come over here, you could see that I have my existing sheets over here, including my drawn by. And I notice over here that the sheets 101 through 102 say quadrant 1, but over here, I'm kind of being more specific about north, east, and west. So I broke these floor plans up with 3 different scope boxes because they're too big to fit on, because a floor plan's too big to fit on one sheet. So what I'm going to do here is I'm just going to take these 101 and 102, these sector plans. I'm just going to copy it over here, and I'm actually going to replace the sheet names right here. So I'll paste the resulting values. And you can see over there, it no longer says quadrant, but it's north, east, and west. And then finally, what I'm going to do over here is I'm just going to grab these sheets, copy these to the clipboard, and then at the bottom over here, I'm just going to come in right over here, and I'm going to paste the values. Okay, now I want these sheets to appear in the sheet list, so I'll just go ahead and fill it down. And then these were all drawn by Richard Taylor. So I'll do RWT, and I'll just go ahead and fill those down. Now, take a look at this. For 103 through 105, I'm going to use the same title block over here, but for 106, I'm going to leave these blank, and you're going to see the difference between those in just a moment. And like before, I can hit new and fill this down. And just like that, you can see what I've done over here. Let's take a look at this. I'm going to hit the save button. I'm going to close this, and then I'm going to import the sheets. It's going to take just a moment. No errors, no warnings. You can see Richard's been added. We renamed the existing sheets over here, and then we've created some new sheets and assigned a title block, but we don't have title blocks here. Keep an eye out over here when I hit the import button. And when I do that, you can now see that I have the new sheets over here, like the 103. It has, all the information there. You could see Richard Taylor and so forth. So what happened to the 106 sheets, the ones that I left blank in terms of the title block? Well, if I right click over here and go to new sheet, those are actually placeholder sheets. So if you leave the title block blank, they become placeholder sheets. However, if you actually assign it a title block, they will show up in the project browser. So that's a little bit on some project setup with Bimlink. Richard, I'm going to stop my share and pass it back to you.
That's great. I'm glad you put me to work by creating some sheets.
Absolutely.
All right, let's see if I can switch off the screen here, or switch the screen, I should say. How's it look?
Fantastic.
Okay, so everything that Sash was showing you today was using Excel and the power of Excel and the power of Bimlink. And I like to think of that power if you have large things to update, like, maybe as Sash was showing, you have 20 levels that you're updating, or you've got several hundred rooms that you need to be creating. Our Ideate apps is a collection of 9 productivity tools. And we're going to be focusing today on the sheet and view tools within that, right? And I like to think of them as being a little bit more contextual, in the sense that it's sort of, you're working on it within your project, meaning that you're not using Excel to create sort of these large volumes of information. You're sort of creating the sheets, you're creating the views, you're doing things a little bit more contextually. And just like Sash mentioned at the beginning of his presentation, Ideate Apps is really available for everyone, whether you're an architect, interior designer, mechanical engineer, structural engineer. These tools are going to be able to be used by everyone. And so, as I mentioned, Ideate Apps is 9 tools, but today we're going to be focusing on View Creator, creating the specific views that you need with specific, let's say, parameters or requirements, right? Maybe there's a phase or a discipline, or even as Sash showed, a scope box as an example. That's our View Creator. Our Sheet Manager is allowing you to quickly assemble sheets, create new sheets, and drag and drop views between sheets. So I like to think of it as kind of the central traffic cop of sheets and views within Revit. And then our Ideate Clone allows you to copy sheets easily, because that is just not available in base Revit. If you've ever tried to do that, the duplicate and duplicate with detailing is not available. So we've given you the ability to clone sheets and either create new viewports or swap viewports from one sheet to another. And then our Ideate Align allows you to easily align these viewports across multiple sheets. So we all know how difficult the guide grid is for using that to get maybe your mechanical plan and your electrical plan and your architectural plan all completely aligned across multiple sheets. So we can do that with the model coordinates, and we can also do that with the centroid of the view as well. So let's go ahead and look at this. I'm going to switch over to Revit here. And as Sash mentioned, all the Ideate software tools are on the Ideate ribbon panel. So if I come over here to Ideate Software, the first thing I would like to do is create some new views. And if you notice over here on the project browser, I have a first floor architecture, and then I have some dependent views. And those dependent views, I've already assigned a crop region in this case, or actually it is a scope box, but it's a scope box as well as a crop region. So I've got the east view. And if I double click over here, the west view, let's fit that. So basically I've just broken this into 2 sections, right? And they are the dependent views that are underneath architecture. And let's go back to the main architecture view here. Now, I would like to take that information that I created and apply it to other views. So that's one of the methods of using Ideate View Creator. So I'm going to come over here to my View Creator. All right. And you'll see that there are, when I say methods, there are multiple methods for creating new views. You'll see here, there are plans to levels, meaning that if you already have levels and you want to create some plans associated with those levels, that's one method. I can duplicate views, duplicate and maybe potentially change the phase or discipline or other, a myriad of different properties. But in this case, I'm going to use this apply dependence. And I'm going to select the views as I want, sort of for the template, if you will. So I say under architecture, I'm going to take this first floor east and first floor west, select those 2, and I want to apply them to some other views. So I would like to apply it to structural, plumbing, mechanical, coordination, and the building code. So I choose which particular floor plans I want, and I'm going to select next. And so what it does is, based on this rule that we have, and these rules are completely customizable, it's going to create dependent views with the associated name, right, of east and west. And in fact, if I don't like that, I can actually say, you know what, I want to take this and I want to find east, and I want to replace with NE, or actually, I'll just say northeast, just to show you that you can quickly find and replace things either. So, if it's not exactly what you want, you can easily change that. You can also prefix, you can append something to the end as a suffix to the view name itself. So now I like this. It says it's going to create 10 views. There are no errors. It will tell me if I'm duplicating something that's not able to be created because it needs to be a unique name. So in this case, I'm going to select create 10 views and done, and watch over here to my project browser. Well, sure enough, all of them, like if we look at the mechanical, now we have a mechanical, which I named Northeast, and then we have a West, right? And so now these are the same, again, if I go to the plumbing, we have the same parameters, or I should say properties, that have been assigned for those particular views. Okay. So let's come back now. And now that we have some views created, we're going to create a cartoon set or kind of a mapping out some of our viewports assigning to particular sheets. So here, we're using Ideate Sheet Manager. As I said, this is like our central traffic cop. We have views on the left and sheets on the right. And I can apply different browser organizations just like I can with the project browser. So in this case, I come down to my sheets here and I see, well, here's I'm going to double click on my finishes default and I'll open that so you can see that sheet that I've already sort of got a template of maybe some views that I want to start out here with this particular sheet. I'll expand that so you can see the viewports that are assigned to that. Now, if I go here and create sheet, here's where Sash was showing you, look at, I've got some placeholder sheets. These placeholder sheets could have been created by Ideate Bimlink. In my particular case, I'm just going to say, you know what, I'm not going to use a placeholder sheet at this particular time. I'm just going to create a new sheet here. And then it creates the next sheet in the list. So in this case, it's R4, that's fine. I'm going to rename it and we'll say it's going to be actually my coordination view. So I'll call it coordination and select OK. And you see that I have the tools to be able to append and again, rename things. So now I have that R4 coordination. So we created some new views, right? We created a coordination west. I'm going to click, drag and drop coordination west over to my coordination sheet. So now I'm assigning that viewport to that sheet. And once I do that, then I can come over here and I'm just going to show you just some examples. I'll show you a schedule. So here's a door hardware schedule. We're going to click and drag that over also to that new sheet. And you can basically decide to move viewports from one sheet to another. So if I go back to this RT-1, right, and I zoom up, maybe I've got this nice little signage view, the signage elevation view, and I would like it to be on my other sheet, right? So we're going to come over here and I'm going to expand on the two viewports here, or I should say on the sheets, and we're going to take the signage elevation, click it, and drag it over to coordination. And with Revit, you know that you can only have one sheet on or one viewport on a sheet. So therefore, I'm removing it from this finishes and I'm placing it on coordination. Well, and your first question might be, well, Richard, how did it know where to place these? Well, the answer is it actually didn't, because it assigns it to the sheet. And now I have the ability to say, oh, okay, I want the plan in the upper left-hand corner. I would like this, let's say, elevation view. We're going to line it up here, like here. And we're going to take the schedule and we're going to put it over in the lower left-hand corner. And I'm also going to do something that's a new feature is I'm going to take this title and I'm going to move it as well, because I want other plans to match not only the location of the plan, the model coordinates, I want it to match the title as well. So I look at this, and again, this is sort of my template, right? I say, okay, well, this is where I want the plan views. This is where I want the schedules and the elevations. Okay, now what I'd like to do is copy this. So we're going to come over here to my coordination view. I'm going to right click and I'm going to go over here to duplicate. Oh, that's a problem. Okay, you see that it's grayed out. And this is what I was saying is it's just not possible within Revit to be able to do that. But we have solved that. So again, coordination. Now I want to come over here and there's a clone. So the clone allows me to say, well, all right, the next in the sheet is RT.5. Instead of coordination, we're going to call it structural. Okay. And here's where it gives me the ability to swap viewports. So remember, we also created a structural west as part of our view creator. So we're going to come down here to structural west. So I'm basically replacing the coordination west with structural west. The signage elevation, I have a building elevation that I want to replace it. So let's come down here to, there's a structural building elevation for structure right here. And then I have a schedule that was actually brought in by our Ideate Sticky product called, that allows me to link Excel spreadsheets. And so I was able to link or bring in a minimum compressive strength schedule from Excel. And I'm going to show that or swap that on the sheet as well. So really you see that I can actually duplicate views and I can again do the prefix and suffix and I can replace things. But right now I'm going to take the first floor plan and I'm going to swap the coordination west with the structure west. And notice there's this little tick here, or this little checkbox. It says align plan views using model coordinates. So that's what I want. I want those to align using those model coordinates. But if I untick this, it's actually going to use the centroid of the view instead. For things like the schedules and the elevations, it's going to use the upper left crop region to align. So now when I hit clone, right, it's going to create that new sheet with the new title block information. And it's going to now create the new information. Looks like let's go back here to Revit. It's thinking here. There we go. Switch the focus there for me for a second. Now I'm going to say done. And sure enough, here's our coordination view, right? That was my original one. And then now look at the RT structural. Look at it's in the exact same coordinates. The title on the sheet is also in the same information, or same location. The schedule is in the upper left-hand corner aligned, and the elevation is also aligned in the upper left-hand corner. So great way to be able to do that. And of course, you can actually manually align these two. I don't really have a lot of time, but notice that you can align plans views using model coordinates, and you can also choose to match the plan view title position. This feature, I want to note, is only available, unfortunately, in Revit 2022 and, I'm assuming subsequent versions, because this was something that Autodesk made available in their API that we were able to take advantage of. So unfortunately, it's only available in Revit 2022 and later releases. Okay, so another thing we have here, I want to show you some other real quick tools, is under my finishes, if you remember, I have, let's go ahead and fit this. There is a notes legend on the upper right-hand corner. And you know what? I would really like to have that on some of the other sheets as well. So what I want to do is I can take it right from here and I can, let's say, copy the legends and schedules. We're going to come down to our new one that we just created, the structure, right? And right-click and say paste legends and schedules. So it's going to be at that same location. So let's go again. Now double-click. And now we'll go ahead and fit this. Here we have that nice notes legend in the upper right-hand corner. Now, another cool tool with Ideate Sheet Manager is being able to create new sheets based on existing unplaced views. So let's go back to my views that we did earlier, right? Remember we created the west, we also created the east or the northeast. I just showed you how you could change the name. So what I'd like to do is I'm going to click on every one of these that's northeast. I'm going to say, do it using a control key. I'm going to select on all of the northeast ones. And I'm going to say right click and notice there's a create sheets. So I say create sheet. And it says, well, Richard, what would you like to use as a template to start out with? And in fact, what I'd like to do is I'd like to select, instead of the structural one, I want to do that, that first one, which was the finishes. Selected the wrong one there. There we go. Because that has the general notes. Instead of copying and paste it like I showed you just a few minutes ago, I want to be able to go ahead and include that. And so I actually am going to include this legends, this general notes. I'm not going to include the schedule, but you can see if I do that, it's actually highlighted blue down below. And the starting number of these, I'm going to say it's going to be RT7 as an example, and say, okay, well, go ahead now and create those. So it's going to create 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 sheets. And it's going to align the floor plans based on the model coordinates. And the reason I chose that existing sheet was because the sheet was set up where it was in the right location in relative to the title block. Okay, so now all those sheets were created. I can edit the sheet names again, if I so desire. Like I can say over here on sheet name, I can say find in East and replace with East and replace all, just to show you that I can, move these things around and update the information. Here's the sheet numbers, and all that looks good, let's say. So now I'm going to go ahead and create those. All right, and now you see those are created in my list. And if I want to open those, I can just double click right here from the Sheet Manager. And you might have noticed that when I'm using Sheet Manager or any of the tools, it's non-modal, meaning that I can use any other Revit command and still have this be active. And I can even have this on the second window if I want, if I've got two screens. And so you'll notice now that all of those were created, and again, in the exact same locations that we wanted based on the east portion of that floor plan. So again, just a couple nice quick things. I wanted to mention one other thing. I don't have a lot of time to show it, but we just created a blog today, as a matter of fact, on our Ideate Software website. I'm going to go back to View Creator. And you saw that I had a method that I was able to use to copy or apply dependents. I actually now want to duplicate views. And I want to say, select the view that I want. In this case, I'm going to select the ceiling plan coordination, but we have a new feature allowing you to duplicate to other family type. So even though I'm picking a ceiling plan, right, and I hit next, it's going to say, oh, well, you want to take all the properties of that ceiling and then make it into a floor plan or make it into a structural plan. Or this is really nice if you've got other area plans. You'll notice I can change it from one area scheme to another. So I might be changing it from gross building to rentable or so forth. So this is what's available. So in this case, I'm going to say, you know what, I'm going to actually change it to a floor plan. And now go ahead and select that. And it creates that. And, you know, again, I can have this is going to be my new FP or something, whatever I decide for that particular rule. And I can go ahead and create that new view with that new property. So now it's going to be, even though I started out with a ceiling plan, it's going to be under the floor plans. So now let's see right there. So there, first floor plan, new FP is what I created. And I used the template for the ceiling plan. So with that, that's kind of a quick overview of some of the contextual sheet and view tools within Ideate apps. And so sort of the, you know, if you'd like to try these, if you're not an Ideate software customer and you're not familiar with Ideate apps, you can download a free trial, 14 days of Ideate apps, and you can use and see these tools for yourself at ideatesoftware.com/download. And I'm going to switch it back to Samuel, and I'm going to see, actually, Sash, were there any questions? I saw there were a few questions popping up, I think.
Yeah. Yeah, let's, I'll have you go ahead and answer a couple of these right now. So this came from Jack. So the question was, you know, after you create some of the dependent views, so I'm assuming this is with the view creator, can you mass modify where they crop as a scope for the project changes? So I'm assuming that's tying them in with like changing the scope box assignment if you need to.
Well, yeah, I mean, but remember, the whole point of a dependent view is the fact that it is reflecting the information from the parent view. So really, there's only a couple things you can change, and that's like the crop, basically, and the scope box. There's not other, like for instance, you're not able to sort of change the what's being shown as far as 2D information or annotation information. That's going to be the same because they're dependent. In this case, like if I look at this particular one and I look at the properties, you know, there are things there that tells me that, you know, what the dependency is, right? And there are things that I can change down below here, right? That are available to be changed in Revit. So that's what I could sort of apply, if that makes sense.
And the other way I also answered it too is, you know, if you wanted to, if you have a list of these dependent views, and let's say you want to just change some of the scope box assignment, you can even pull that up in Bimlink and do a scope box swap out if you needed to for some reason. That would be the other way to do it. Kind of like how I assigned like the levels a scope box. It'd be kind of the same method of pulling up the views in Bimlink and doing the scope box assignment or change from that standpoint as well. Right. Yep. Okay. Another question that had come through is the languages. Since we've made those changes there, are these available for all of the Ideate software products? And also, how far back does the languages go?
That's a great question. It is available. All the language that we are now supporting, which is 6. So we have English plus 5 additional languages, are available in all 5 of our Ideate software solutions. And that is simplified Chinese, Japanese, German, French, Spanish, English, Did I miss one? I'm going from the top of my head, Sash.
No, I think you did. I think you got it. Yep.
And basically, if you start Revit using that version that you're in for Revit, like let's say you start the German version, our software will automatically translate into the German version. So you don't have to worry about that. You just go ahead and fire it up and it will translate the applications for you.
Perfect. Another one, and maybe I can take this, is, you know, besides like sheets and levels and rooms, you know, what else can, you know, be created new using Bimlink? And so I figured, you know, why not take that one? And so let me just go ahead, Richard, if you don't mind, I'm going to share my screen. And let me pick my screen one. I actually got kind of prepared for this one here. Richard, you can see my screen, correct?
I can, yes.
Perfect. I just brought up one. And by the way, the nice thing about Bimlink is you can create a lot of new types within the Bimlink product. So you saw, you know, me create sheets and levels and rooms, right? But again, I mentioned you can create spaces from rooms and have them placed in the exact same location as the architect's rooms. So I'll just bring one up here. We have one called Furniture Types Create New. And it's one that's built into Bimlink. And all I did in this example here is it brings up the furniture types, and I just added the width, length, and height parameters. And you'll notice over here, just as an example, that these are hashed out. And what that means is this particular width, length, and height parameter does not apply to these particular families, but you can see they apply to the rectangular table. And so what's nice is if I were to take this information out and export it, and I'll just put it right here, what you could technically do is I can come in over here and say, oh, maybe I want to create some more rectangular tables, right? So I can come down here and fill this down, you know, pick new over here, right? Like that. And I can call this one Richard. And I can call this one, you know, Sash, right? And while I'm at it, I can make it, you know, a 3 foot by 3 foot by 3 foot table. And this will be a 5 foot by 5 foot by 5 foot table. So you see here, I'm just filling in some basic information. And if I wanted to make this type R for Richard and type S for Sash, I can do that. I can say this is Richard's table, right? You can see, you know, something like this. I can just fill in this information, you know, right here, right? So I'll just say this is Sash's table. So you see, I'm just doing that. Basically, I'm saying it's applying to this particular family, and these are the new types that we're creating. If you don't fill this information in here, it's not going to know where to go. All right. So I can add all this parameter information if I want to, and I can leave this stuff blank. So be thinking about how you can kind of populate families. I could save it and close it, import it. This should work. We'll give it a shot here. I'll hit open. Beautiful. You can see here, these are going to be new. And so when I go to import, you know, and I come down over here to, let's say, furniture, to families, and I come down here to furniture, you could see that we have the table rectangular, and there's Richard and Sash's table. And if I just click on Richard's, we could see it's R, it's Richard's table, and I can use that, you know, in my project. If I didn't, you know, add the height, length, and width parameters, it would have just defaulted to the default size. But, you know, if you're on the mechanical side, you need to add mechanical information, no problem. Structural, if you need to add, you know, new, let's say beams or columns or whatever it may be, you can actually use Bimlink to create new types. And then there was one other question about Sticky real quickly. And the question was, you know, how does Ideate Sticky differ from Bimlink? Because we do get that question occasionally. So I figured I'd just take a moment to answer. Sticky actually allows you to live link Excel files as schedules, or Word, PDF, and Excel as images. Just depends on the workflow. So this is linking non-BIM data. So whatever you link into the model here doesn't actually get input as information in the model. So real quickly, if I just take 1 second here and go to create, and I come over to, you know, where my, data sets are, I'll just bring in a quick example here. I'll bring in this Philips lighting, and I'll bring in one of the worksheets inside of there. And when I do this, what it's going to do is it's going to live link the Excel file into my Revit project as a schedule. And you can see it, you know, right here. And so what's nice about that, if I come back over to Sticky and I select this and open the file itself, the nice thing about that is if I come in over here and make any changes, you know, change this to, you know, something else, I'll change it to green, and I'll remove, you know, the fill. you know, whatever I want to do over here, right? Just remove the fill, I'll remove this arrow, whatever it is, no problem. And when I hit the save button, I want to make this a little bit more obvious. When I hit save and close it, when I come in over here and hit update, it would normally, if I close the dialog and reopen, it would say out of date. But when I do that, you could see here now that the changes have happened. So it's a link back to the Excel file. So that's the difference. This doesn't get pushed into any of the lighting fixtures or exit fixtures or whatever it is. But if you need a way to live link Excel, Word, or PDFs into your models with the source of truth being back at the main file, this is the difference between that and Bimlink. Bimlink accesses real live data. Sticky does not. All right, that's all I have. I'm going to stop my share. I'm going to give it back to Samuel and Ankit to finalize everything.
Great. Thanks so much, Sash. And also Richard for this great presentation. And thanks for everyone in the audience for attending today's live webinar. It was entitled Revit Project Setup: Simple Steps for Using Ideate Software Solutions to Save You Effort Over the Life of Your Revit Project. This webinar is part of the CE Strong webinar series powered by the Architects newspaper, and it was sponsored by Ideate Software. For those of you wondering, the webinar was recorded and it can easily be replayed using the same registration link that brought you here today. Please allow 2 to 3 business days to process Certificate of Participation and AIA credit for this presentation. Once again, I want to thank Sash and Richard for the presentation and for everyone in the audience. I hope you enjoy the rest of your day. Bye, everyone.
Yeah, thank you.
Thank you all. Appreciate it.